Hello, I'm Ashley, the engineer at Andover Norton, and one of the things we get asked on a regular basis is about sliders. Now, we get these sliders and there are different variations, but the ones you're going to come across are going to be sort of this style. There are others, like the one they fitted to the production racer, the Manx and the long road holder, but these are the main ones you're going to see on your Dominator in Commando. Now, clearly this one here is straightforward. It has the bosses for a caliper fitted on the late Commando. Now the other one, if you haven't got a brake disc, it will have the boss that was there suitable for the brake plate itself to locate to. Now the other side is one you see with neither on, but it's got the actual pinch bolt section. This is the one some people have major problems with, because when they fit it, they find there's a gap on this face to the hub. Now, the problem being is that most people, when they fit this, I'll push this in here, it would sit something like that and you'll end up with a bit of a gap. Now, what some people do is try and force that over and reduce the gap. What you've now done is push your fork out of square. Ideally, they need to be parallel to each other. Now this can sit anywhere along here within reason, it doesn't really matter, and likewise when you do the pinch bolt up, all it's got to do is just be enough to grip that part of the wheel spindle and locate it. If you read the manual, it normally tell you that when you fit these, fit it all loose and then bounce up and down and then tighten everything up. What you're doing there is effectively making sure that these settle at a nice position actually on the spindle, ready for you to tighten it up. Now, people worry too much about it when they see the gap because they think they've left something out. They haven't left anything out, because this one here, when you put the wheel into place and you put this through, this is the one that will pull up and locate everything off this shoulder against this face here. Once that's set against this face, that is your wheel centered against this fork leg. And likewise, when you do the nut up, keeps it all tight. And as you can see, when it's in this end, it just floats. That's how you get your forks square. If they're not square, you might find your forks still work, but they'll be very stiff in operation. And if they're really bad, you might hear some rather unkind noises coming out of them. Now, do the sliders wear out? Yes, they do. Now, it's very hard to see and detect, but at the very bottom, somewhere in the region of about here in the slider, you might get a little wearage, and it's caused by the lower bush. Sometimes you can actually see it. If you've got a nice torch and get down there, sometimes you can see the wearage, and it's normally on the front side or the rear side. It's never across the way, as you'd imagine, as the way your forks operate in use and up and down with your wheel in it, then the wearage is going to be generally 4.5. Now you can get something put down there and you can actually get and feel just a tiny little lip on the bottom of the slider. Most people wouldn't really bother changing them if they detected that, but however, be aware that it is down there and that's where it can wear. Now, something you can do to try and reduce that amount of wear is with the lower bush, and we'll get close-ups. What you can do is on this chamfered edge, there's a sharp edge, it's on a chamfer, so it's not really sharp, but this is steel and this is aluminium. So what you can do is you can use some wet and dry and just break any machined edges that are on the actual lower bush. This will then provide a nice face to work against the aluminium slider. It all seems to work pretty well. Now, what I've just mentioned there is not encompassed in any workshop manual that I know of. However, we have the AMC drawings for the AJS and matchless lower bush, and they break it there, and it's something I've been doing for years. It just doesn't make sense to me to have a sharp edge running in aluminium, but 65 years later it's still what we got, and it still works pretty well. Now, something else we also get, now I'll show people on this one as it's the most pronounced, is we get people turn around and say, I've got a slider, how do I know what type of yoke it fits? Now, some people struggle with this a little bit. If you've got 7-inch yokes, then you will have less material here. That would be finished tighter back towards the center line of the actual slider, because you've got a narrow distance, therefore you need less material. When they went to 7 3/8 and went out a bit, they had to put a little bit more material on to fill the gap and still keep everything in the center line of the actual steering stem. Now, a bit brief and short, but that goes to show some of the things that you can do with a slider. One of the things you might get in future with these is the fact that these will be oval. No matter what slider you get, it will be oval, even on a Dominator. This one here is a round one. Now we have to machine these round from a casting. It's actually quite hard to do, and the aesthetic look when it's finished is not that great. Now, the reason we made round ones in the past, now I would have thought it would have made sense that they would just use oval ones, was the fact there's two race bodies that are in the UK. One insisted that the bikes had to be raced with original style sliders, i.e. had to be round. Now the other organisation that dealt with another form of motorcycle motorsport insisted that you could get away with and use an oval one because in their opinion it was stronger. Yeah, bear in mind that when you actually cut one of these in half or apart, there isn't that much wall thickness on them anyway. So best to keep them oval, and it's easier for us to keep them oval. That's how they come cast, and that's how we'll be supplying them in future. Realistically, from a distance, you're not really going to notice much of a difference. You need to be up within about 2 or 3 feet to tell anything, or put your hand around it. That concludes today's video. Now, something I need to ask people, and it's not to like and subscribe. Please feel free to do that if you wish. But the other thing that I could ask you to do is, before you ring us, if you could look elsewhere online for information or a manual or all the various places where there's little bits of information. There's loads of them out there, legacy sites where there's useful hints and tips on how to maintain your Norton. The reason I ask this is the number of phone calls we're getting through at the moment to the technical desk is absolutely massive. We're getting phone calls come in at about 1 every 5 minutes at the moment. And it's that time of year when some of us are going on holiday, so it makes it very hard. Also, myself and Simon, our primary role at Andover Norton is to put stuff onto the shelves, not sell it off. We've got other people that do the selling side. And while we're doing technical stuff, we're not putting stuff on the shelves or dealing with future projects which we've got coming up in future, some of which are massively interesting and would be game changers in the classic motorcycle world, not just for the Nortons. Now, if you do really get stuck, please send an email. We'll try and answer it within 24 hours. If it is that urgent, then feel free to ring, but somebody may take a message or we'll get back to you later, or just take a note and say, well, we'll get back in an hour or so. Now, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you.